acknowledge the role of elders past, present, and emerging. This is always a significant event, and I've enjoyed being part of the Assura Noah's Pudding now for some years, and to be invited to speak gives me good cause to think about what it is that we share and bring together. Mehmet, in your comments before, you made the reference to the phrase, choose to listen. We choose to listen to one another. Choice is something we can do. We can make one choice, or we can make another. The very act of Noah's pudding, in fact, recalls the flood. It recalls Noah being called by God. It recalls the outcome of that. In fact, there was pre-existing traditions of a global flood in a number of cultures around the world. We read about it in the Epic of Gilgamesh, for example. But there is a significant difference that happened in the Abrahamic faiths when they took this same story of this evidence of a global deluge. Before the Abrahamic traditions represented by Christianity, Judaism, Islam, by the Sabiya Mandaeans, by the Druze, by the Baha'i, and by others who all share this tradition of the call to Noah. Before then, what had happened is there was an act of caprice by what were deemed to be the gods at the time. They had no relationship with the creation that they had made, no love for that creation that they had made, and so there was just a flood and people died, and the culture was wiped out. But when the Abrahamic traditions came to this, they wanted to read more into this. What was going on? There was a brokenness in society before the flood, according to all the stories coming down through the Abrahamic traditions, from the Quran, from the Hebrew Bible, from the Old Testament, as we call it in the Christian tradition. What was going on? There was a brokenness of society, and God said this had to be put a stop to. And he called, and Noah chose to listen. And Noah then gathered together and worked hard, and there was the 40 days and 40 nights, which in the Hebrew Bible is reported in Genesis chapter 6 through 9. And then there was at the end of that a finding of place. A finding of a place to settle and start a new beginning. And indeed, Professor Ozalpi talked about the new beginnings. And that is an important message that comes out of the Noah tradition in the Abrahamic traditions. The opportunity to start again. But how would that starting again best work? It would best work if there was a choosing to listen, one to another, to hear each other. And so consequently, the idea of this oldest desert in the world, which may go back to those times, but certainly the oldest recorded desert in the world, symbolically represents not only the useful use of all the products that were left after 40 days on the ark, and bringing them together, not to waste them. It's a bit like in the Christian tradition we have Shrove Tuesday pancakes, where you use up all the dairy products in the house before the Lenten fast. So Assura brings all that together. And I must say that the references are always moving and beautiful about what that means. And thank you, Nadia, for your references, that each aspect has its own distinct character. And yet, by coming together, gives something that each individual thing could not do by itself. And I just think that is an incredibly powerful metaphor. How does that then work? It works because the ingredients, if one can stretch the metaphor here, choose to listen to each other. The pomegranate chooses to listen to the cinnamon, chooses to listen to the grains, and make a melding together. And so in the human condition, that does then mean that this tradition, which shares throughout the Abrahamic faith traditions of loving one's neighbour, becomes such an important element that only works if one chooses to listen one to another. So this idea of sharing, and Assura is the name of the pudding, it just has a nice homophonic reference with the word share, and it's not etymologically derived from that, but it does share that idea of sharing. Is a critical important part of the tradition that we pick up in Noah. Noah listened to God. He chose to listen. Then the issue is for us. Do we, as citizens of the world, of Australia, but of the world, do we choose to listen one to another? And so I want to just close, first of all, with a reading from what is referred to as the Hebrew Bible, and we refer to as the Old Testament, from the closing chapter of the Noah episode in the Bible, Genesis 9:13-15. I have set my rainbow in the clouds, God said, and it will be a sign of the covenant between me and the earth. Never again will the waters become a flood to destroy all life. That was the covenant of God to his creation. I've had people say, therefore we shouldn't worry. It's all okay, God's promise will be okay. That's God's covenant. What is our covenant? A covenant is a partnership. Does humanity answer that covenant in the same way? Do we answer it that we will not be a sign of division, that we want to be a sign of unity? And so can I close? And Mel has asked me to close with a prayer, and so I close with a prayer from our tradition. Lord, give me the quiet faith of Noah, who chose to listen to your voice, the steady hands to build what you commanded, and had the courage to stand apart from the divisions and difficulties of the world to protect and enhance your creation. May we choose too to hear your voice. May we choose too to hear the voice of your covenant where you reached out to your creation. May we choose, Lord, have the strength to understand that by coming together through all our distinctness, we become one in your sight.